Thank you so much for being here. I love talking about patient recruiting. I know it can be very challenging, but hopefully some of these tips will make it easier for you and also for the patients. Some of the things I'm going to share actually are good for all respondents that you're recruiting, but specifically for people who may have medical challenges or caregivers, this is really important to look for, to maybe take some special extra care of them. Let's see, next. So first of all, when recruiting patients, make sure you add extra time, both for the recruit and for the research itself. Patients are sick. They're caring for people who are sick. They may have a flare. They may have been rushed to the hospital. They signed up with us because they want to participate in research. They want to share their story. They want to help other people who are coming after them. It's not that they just don't want to show up or that they don't want to sign up to be, in your study. They do. They just might not be able to be there that day. So giving a little extra time for recruiting, padding the time for doing the research itself is really, really helpful. The second thing is making sure that that what you're doing is accessible. So it's important when you're doing the research itself, but a lot of times we're not really thinking about the fact that we should be looking at accessibility when we're recruiting. So a couple things. I know, websites, there are a lot of tools that you can use. There are plugins that you can add to make sure your website is accessible. And a lot of them are not that expensive, but really helpful for patients who might need a screen reader or might have ADHD or might have other disabilities that impact. The other thing is to be very thoughtful and careful about your emails. So at Rare Patient Voice, we recruit through email, and so a couple of the things that that you can do about your emails is, first of all, make sure that there are clear headings and clear structure. It's a logical format, and the reason to do that is screen readers for people with low vision need a format that they can navigate that is clear and structured. So that's helpful. Second, make sure that there's good contrast. If you're using different colors, make sure the background and the text are differently colored so that they're easily visible. Make sure you use sans serif fonts, and also never use anything that's under a 14-point font. Again, it makes it easier for people to read, people who have, not only low vision, but who may have other challenges. Trying to help them make the email a little bit easier to read is a really smart thing to do. If you're using images, always use alt text. It's not something that everybody thinks about, but if you have a graphic, you have something that you want them to look at, a screen reader needs that to be able to describe that to someone with low vision. If you have any links, like in a screener, let's say you have a recruiting link or a scheduling link, don't use just click here. Actually use a descriptive term that's very concise so they know what they're to click on, and make sure it's visible and very different from the rest of your text, because you want them to know that they should go to the calendar link. You want them to know where they're supposed to click. If it just says click here, it's not always that helpful to them. And then finally, make sure that everything is in plain language. We all know we're supposed to be writing in plain language, but another couple tips: use very short paragraphs, and also use bullets to describe whatever specifics you're looking for. That's helpful for people with cognitive challenges, but it's really helpful for all of us to see information that's kind of bulleted in short paragraphs. The next thing, if you can, offer flexible ways to participate. They may have severe pain, as an example, or mobility issues. And you might have planned face-to-face research. Could you do some of those interviews online? Or they might have fine motor challenges, and a long survey with a lot of open ends might not be a really good idea for that patient group. Another thing, some of these conditions cause severe exhaustion. So if you're doing interviews, could you get done what you need to get done in 45 minutes instead of 60 minutes? Some of these things might not be possible, but if they are, you should consider it. That leads me to my next point, which is understand the condition, know the audience. So understanding the nuances of the medical condition that you're working with is really important. And I'm sure most of you do look into that, but there's some specifics that if you understand how the disease impacts daily living, that actually really improve your research. A good example is we had a study with mobility patients who had movement disorders, and the client wanted the patient to stay within a certain box during the interview. That wasn't part that the box wasn't part of the research, but for whatever reason they had to stay within this screen, and the patients couldn't do it, and it caused a lot of frustration and angst, and nobody wants that. You don't want your respondents to be upset, and we don't want them to be upset either. So understanding that is really important. And to that point, make sure what you're asking them is possible for them to do. So if you have patients, for example, who have hearing loss, you need to make sure that you have captions on the screen. If you don't, then you're really setting the patient up for failure. Same thing with low vision. If you want them to review concepts, as an example, or you're having them look at certain graphics, they need to be something that they can actually use a screen reader for, or they're not going to be able to fully participate. Another idea is accommodation planning, and it's not always something that we think about up front, but it's something easy to add to a screener to ask if they need an accommodation to be successful. And to the extent you can do this, obviously you can't, some things you wouldn't be able to do, but there are some things that are pretty easy to do. For example, you might be doing let's say you're doing a heart disease study, and you ask if they need an accommodation, and the same patient has dyslexia. Well, they may need extra time to complete what they're, the survey that you're asking them to do. And if you've programmed it to time out after a certain amount of time, you're going to lose that respondent. Same thing with processing disorders. There are a lot of medical conditions that make it difficult for people to process information and respond quickly. So that's in a survey that would apply, but also if you're doing interviews, or let's say you're in a focus group and you have someone who's quiet and they're not sharing, they're not involved. And I mean, I would do the same thing. You would make an assumption, oh, they're introverted, or they're just here for the money, or they don't want to participate. But it actually could be that they need extra time. And if you know that up front, if you have asked that in your screener and they've asked for extra time, you'll know as a moderator, for example, how to maybe go to them last for a response, or give them an extra 2 or 3 minutes to come up with a response, because it's not that they don't want to participate, it's that they just need an extra time to be able to process the question and come up with a response. And then finally, be kind, be nice, be patient. These are people who are struggling with things that we don't even want to know about, but they have signed up to participate because they want to share their voice. They want to share their expertise. They know more about their disease than their doctors know, and they want to be part of something where they can help someone else. So give them that grace, give them that time to participate. They're not sample, they're not a number, they're a human being, and they're facing enormous challenges. And it's an honor to hear their story. And, if we can be patient and kind and give them that grace, they need extra time, they need an extra day. It's a good thing for everybody. So that is what I have to say about patient recruiting. To ensure that your research is inclusive.